Eve's the Tail Chaser. This fetching young woman has a faraway look in her soft sea green eyes. Greetings, I'm Eve's the Tail Chaser. What a coincidence, I too chase tails. That's Mort. Typical Mort. Eves continues unperturbed. Have you come to trade tails? I'd like to trade tails. I would like very much, yes. We'll tell her a story of waking up in the mortuary. She leans forward as you tell the tale of your awakening in the dustman's mortuary. She seems to devour your every word. As you finish, she smiles at you. I shall remember this tale. I too will tell a tale of the dustman. Chapters of Dust. There are chapters in the Dead Book, the massive tome which dustmen keep, that records the passing of all that lives into the eternal boundary. In this book there are chapters that are naught but dust, and it is believed that the names therein are lost souls who cannot die, but must suffer life eternally until history itself dies and grants them release. Alley of Lingering Sighs. She learns as you tell the tale. The alley giving birth. We remember that. She seems to devour your every word. Before I must begin, I must ask, do you know what a Modron is? Yes, we just talked to one. Then I shall tell you the tale of the clock and the quadrone. Go on. Once upon a time there existed a Modron. It was a newly created, its logic fresh and untested, and it had come to Sigil following the commands of its Modron superiors. Go on. It knew of nothing but commands and the dictates of obedience in passing along orders of its superiors. For you see, Modrons are only aware of commands of their immediate superiors. They have no grasp of a higher authority until this one. Oh. Well, they had no grasp of a higher authority until this particular Modron. Go on. One day, it came upon a small shop, which there was a small clock that could no longer tell time. It was cracked along the edges, its wheels and hands broken. The Modron immediately set itself to work getting the parts to fix the broken clock. It made a new wooden housing for the clock's parts, replaced the bent springs, carefully filed and oiled the clockwork machinery, and carved new hands from the sparse metal available to it. The newly repaired clock's precise ticking reminded of the great gears of Mechanus, and it comforted it as much as anything may comfort a Modron. Go on. And what the Modron never came to understand was that it truly loved this clock, and that it had worked on, and for reasons it could not explain, elected to remain in Sigil and be with the clock for the rest of its years. Alright. Let's see if our companions have any tales to tell. Dakin. I shall impart the tale of Akali drowning. It tells the story of Akali, a foolish Githzerai of myth who had become lost in the chaos of limbo. Normally, a single Githzerai may use their focused and mental discipline to form the chaos around them into a small, habitable environment. Akali, however, was asked to so many useless and unfocused questions in her quest to return home that her Isle of Matter dissolved around her and she drowned. Fascinating, Dakin. Let me share with you and your companion another version of your tale that I have heard. He looks attentive and perhaps a little surprised. Is goes on to tell a different version, in which Akali was driven from the Githzerai city of Shlak-Lor on her constant useless prattling. One day she encountered a Slutty on his way to the spawning stone. She hastily erected a wall of chaos matter, which even the ravenous Slutty found difficult to break down. Hungrily, it waited and spoke to her through the wall. She asked it questions, and she became more absorbed in her pointless queries, and the Slutty's answers her own... She became more absorbed in her pointless queries, and the Slutty's answers, her own wall decayed and collapsed upon her, and thus she drowned in the matter of limbo. Alright. Anna. I'm no good at telling such things. Okay. Don't I want to be asking for such nonsense now? Just tell her the story already. No? Come on already, fiendling. You already have one tail you won't part with. Anna looks uncomfortable, her tail lashing back and forth. Well, I know one story. She suddenly becomes angry, glaring at Eves. But you might not like it. You won't. Won't be blaming me for your choking it out of me. Go ahead, Anna. Anna scowls and then finally relents with an exasperated sigh. I heard a story when I was a wee lass. The Spurk walking home real late, near Empty Peak, and passes through a toothless crone in a dark and otherwise empty street. Where you going? She asks him. Home to me wife and kit, he says. Near the slags? She asks him. Sure enough, he says. So she asks him a favour. To take the box she's to... This is hard to read. To take a box she's got to Debtor's Pit and give it to the woman there. Now Spurk's a real sap. Too nice to say no despite the fact he's sure something's not quite right about this old crone. And agrees. But what's the woman's name? He asks. Where does she live? Where should I look for her if she's not by the Debtor's Pit? The woman hands him the box, a wooden thing wrapped in coloured cloth, and tells him to just go, and she'll be there. Finally, she warns him, and whatever he does, do not open the box. So he takes it with him and hides in the rafters, thinking he'll bring it by Debtor's Pit when it's light out. His wife, though, seeing him hiding the box, gets right jealous, thinking it's a gift for her lover or something, and opens it up as soon as he's not looking. Well, turns out the box was full of gouged out eyes and severed male members with the hairs still on them. A scream brought back the Burke Rennan, who remembered what the crone said, got right scared and wrapped the box back up. He went out straight away to Debtor's Pit, and sure enough there was another old hag waiting there for him. He hands her the box, and she says to him, "This box has been opened and looked into." The poor Burke tries to deny it, but she gets this dreadful look on her face. "You've done something horrible," she tells him, then disappears. That done, he hurries back to his kit. He's feeling ill when he gets back and takes to bed. His wife bitterly regretted opening the box and all, but it was too late. The next day he died of a rotten disease, and the first thing to go was his eyes and stem. Anna nods grimly, her tale complete. He smiles. That is a wonderful tale, Anna. You should never hesitate to share it. Now I have one for you and your companion, the parched land. Once a large village was struck by a terrible drought. The farmer journeyed to the worshipping stone and again implored it as to the cause of the drought. He asked the stone why it did nothing when the fields were parched and dying, and why the animals and people suffered while the stone did not a thing. Have we not given enough offerings? The farmer asked, begging almost upon his hands and knees. But the stone did not respond. It merely sat and cast its shadow. Okay. Morta. Your turn. Why do I have to tell a story? Just tell a story, Morta. Fine, fine. An elderly man was sitting alone in a dark path, right? He wasn't certain of which direction to go, and he'd forgotten both where he was traveling to and who he was. He'd sat down for a moment to rest his weary legs, and suddenly looked up to see an elderly woman before him. She grinned toothlessly and a cackle and spoke. Now your third wish, what will it be? Third wish? The man was baffled. How can it be a third wish if I hadn't had a first and second wish? You've had 2 wishes already, the hag said, but your second wish was for me to return everything to the way it was before you had made your first wish. That's why you remember nothing, because everything is the way it was before you made any wishes. She cackled at the poor Burke. So is that you have 1 wish left? Alright, said the man. I don't believe this, but there's no harm in wishing. I wish to know who I am. Funny, said the old woman. She granted his wish and disappeared forever. That was your first wish. Ooh, that's dark. Eve smiles. An interesting tale, Morta. And I have one for you and your companion. The Fiend's Game. A fiend sometimes wandered the wilderness of a certain prime world in the guise of a friendly old man. One day he came upon some hunters in the wood. What are you doing? The fiend asked. The hunters told him, and the fiend nodded. I have never been on a hunt before. The hunters invited the old man to come along, and the group eventually came upon a glade where several deer were grazing. The hunters carried crossbows, but did not fire, and the fiend asked them why. They are unarmed, the hunters chuckled, putting their crossbows away. We hunt nothing that does not have the ability to defend itself. After all, where's the sport in that? The fiend nodded at this, and promptly gated in 3 of his fellows. The hunters led them on a merry chase, but eventually they were caught and eaten. Interesting. Okay. It's also pretty dark. Alright, questions. Why are you called the Tail Chaser? I think we know that. What are you doing here? What can you tell me about this place? We've already traded tales. What can you tell me of the silent prostitute? Echo? Eves frowns, thinking. I once heard a tale of a girl who knew the word that, when spoken, could undo the multiverse. Perhaps that is Echo. Ask Dolora, though. I understand that she sometimes meets with one who knew Echo before she stopped speaking. What can you tell me about the Crimson Veil? Marissa's an interesting tale. Would you like to hear it? Yes, go ahead. Once upon a time, in a world full of heroes and a time of petty, childish gods, there were 3 sisters. Cursed with a hideous appearance, they were considered demons by the people of the land and forever shunned. One missed her sisters terribly, yet left that world with shame behind, but exchanged the pettiness of a pantheon for the pettiness of self. Okay. That's... Add another question? Do you know anything about Ravel Puzzlewell? Frightener of children begins and ends with a question. What can change the nature of a man? Many were times she posed this riddle to those who approached her, those who sought to glean from her the strange magics that she alone seemed to possess. All attempted to answer her query, but to no avail, and they found the price of their wrong answer to be some horrible fate, always more terrible than the last victim's. To recount their various treatments would be to speak of things that nightmares are woven from. The tale strikes me in this way. Ravel herself knew not the answer to this question, but she lusted for such an answer. Only the why of the matter remained in question. Why did the nature of a man matter to one of the Grey Sisters, especially to one of such power as Ravel? It is said that she put the question to the Lady of Pain, not directly, but she said it to Sigil itself, daring for the Lady of Pain to answer. When no reply was forthcoming, she wove terrible magics that threatened to open the cage and let the fury of the plains roll in like a wave. She received no answer other than banishment. To this day, no one knows the answer to Ravel's question. And now there is no one to petition, for Ravel herself is gone, lost to the plains.
Updated my journal.
Wait, there's more! Though my tale ends with Ravel's demise, there are some that claim the hag still lives. There's a silent prostitute here who once talked of such things, but she speaks no longer. If she would speak to you, she might tell you more of Ravel. Okay.